I have to follow up. Last week, we talked about, at the beginning of the show, we talked about discharges and businesses and why businesses don't get a discharge in a Chapter 7 case. And the follow-up was with, if I file a Chapter 7 and I own my own business, is this a good idea or not? And the gist of the question is, if I'm thinking about filing Chapter 7 for my personal finances and the business is viable business, should I file bankruptcy? The answer is no. I mean, Chapter 7, the answer is no. And here's why. When an individual files Chapter 7, the assets of the individual are taken into consideration. You're only allowed to protect so much in personal property. Your ownership of stock is personal property. If your stock in the business has value, let's say, for example, you're carrying a $50,000 inventory in the business. It's a retail business. You got a $50,000 inventory. There's no debt on the business. Theoretically, that makes your stock worth at least $50,000. That's an asset. I can't protect that asset in Southwest Florida, which means that the business is up and running retail business. Once you file bankruptcy, you surrender all non-exempt assets to the Chapter 7 trustee. Well, that trustee can go in and liquidate your business. They can run it. They can say, hey, this is a viable business. I'm making money. That's the theory. So if you do have a viable business, and by viable, I mean you have more assets than debts. You're solvent. That corporation is solvent. Do you want to file Chapter 7 bankruptcy? No. What if you're a service business, like you're an electrician, a self-employed electrician, and your business has assets? We're going to value the assets, but nobody can force you to provide the work for the business if you don't own it anymore. You could say, I'm not going to do it. At that point in time, we're just looking at assets. But when we're talking about assets in a retail business that could run without you or something else, then yeah, you've got to really take those issues into consideration as to why you don't want to file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Now, can you still do a Chapter 13? Sure you can. Absolutely. You can file a 13 individually, I'm saying, because businesses are ineligible to file Chapter 13. So if you file a Chapter 13 for your business, personal, and you own a business, that's why it gets a little confusing. I like to see things on paper. But if you file a Chapter 13 for your personal affairs and your business is operating and viable, that's fine. We still include the value of that business for liquidation purposes. And you're allowed to keep your business. You're allowed to keep running your business. At the same time, you could be paying back your creditors a fair amount so that you would be eligible to keep your business. So I think that's really something you got to take into consideration. By the way, thank you for the question. It was a great question sent in off a question last week, something I didn't cover, and it just didn't pop into my mind to cover it, but I'm glad you did bring that up.